So we've got the Puerto Rican parrot. What's next? What else is here that symbolizes Puerto Rico? Answer, frogs. And you would be like, the great state... Wait, no, it's a territory. The great not in the United States of America territory of the United States of America has a frog that it symbolizes? And I would be like, yes, they're like one of the thousands of species on Earth and the most common thing that you're gonna find here. Have you ever heard of that noise that goes, coquis? Well, that's a coquis frog. To be more specific, the two types of coquis frogs that actually make the coquis noise. Like all the other ones, they aren't. But there's something about the coquis frogs that is different. You see, here in Puerto Rico, it is a wonderful sound to hear at night. It's just, at night you're sleeping and you hear that faint coquis, coquis. Now let's go to Florida, where coquis are invasive species. There are websites on how to kill them. That's a major difference if you ask me. And seriously, you can tell the difference. In Puerto Rico, they're considered a native species. Why? Because they're native. In fact, they're endemic to Puerto Rico. Well, not anymore. They now live in other places, especially when people started shipping plants down to the Hawaii and Florida areas and all those other places. The Puerto Rican coquis took a hitch along, and now they're invasive species in many states. They aren't just invasive species. They aren't just disturbing the ecosystem. They're disturbing our sleep. I mean, if you're in Florida and you lay down into your bed and close your eyes, you probably will not sleep because there's that coquis in your face. And yes, that is true. It is very annoying for a coquis to jump into your house, land on your face at night, and go coquis, 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 coquis. It's really annoying for that. But in Puerto Rico, if they're outside, yeah, that's nice. That's a Puerto Rican sound. That's just what Puerto Rico sounds like. But you see, what exactly are invasive species? Well, invasive species don't only come from Puerto Rico because, Puerto Rico isn't the only place on Earth that has animals. Well, you see, there's a pigeon here called the rock pigeon. And the rock pigeon is very different from the rock pigeons in New York City. Because New York City, the rock pigeons, they're literally the national bird of New York City. They're just everywhere. They're always just pecking at the ground for no reason. It's always going and annoying everybody and famously pooping on my hat and all that stuff. And here you can find some rock pigeons, and guess what? We hate them. Why? Invasive species. I mean, we love the coquis. They hate the coquis. You can tell the difference, okay? So, what exactly is a native species? Well, a native species would be something that is native to the area. It's self-explanatory. It says native, so native. But there's also another term called endemic, which is native only to here. Which is, there are a lot of endemic species here. There are lots of endemic species in Australia and New Zealand and all that other stuff. But something else you need to take in consideration is that your home is home to bugs, and these bugs can be native or invasive. Like for example, if you have some pests in your home, the mosquito is probably gonna be native. But if it turns out to have a coquis in your house, and also you're in some place that is not Puerto Rico, that's probably invasive. And also you should get earplugs because they are stupid loud. Like louder than what I'm doing right now. 500 million times louder than that. Seriously, you need to go listen to them. I mean, put them right next to your ear and then wait at night. Don't do that. You're gonna break your ears. It's terrible. Don't do it. But now let's look at a few examples of invasive. Well, you see, not all invasive creatures, well, literally all of them, are always invasive. Like, keep on bringing up the coquis. It is native to here. We love it in Florida. They hate it. I can't stop repeating it because it's just so important and vital to the plot. And also, for example, to here, I am invasive, kind of. Nearly everybody here is technically invasive. And this is another thing. The native people here, the Taino Indians, yeah, they're dead. They're all dead. Extinct. Which is weird because I don't think you're supposed to call a type of human being as extinct. Like, unless it's not Homo sapien, then it can't go extinct. But it can be wiped off of the Earth's surface. But the Taino Indians, they were wiped out because the conquistadors, the invasive species, the invasive humans, came in, killed them all, chopped down all the trees, and sent a lot of birds, including the Puerto Rican parrot, link in the end of the video, down to extinction, or near to extinction, literally. There are lots of animals that went nearly extinct. In fact, a few coquis frogs were never heard of until about 2018, where we finally were able to hear the coquis. And yes, there are a lot of coquis that might have been extinct, so. But we all know that they're actually alive now because, we can hear them, we have photos of them. Okay, let's continue. Now let's go through actual examples of invasive species, and we will be focused on invasive species right down there. See what that is? That's Yunque National Rainforest. Duh, I live in Puerto Rico, Rio Grande, so that's obviously gotta be Yunque. Now, in Yunque, there are many invasive species, but there is one type of invasive species that is really kicking everything to hell, which is, can I tell you? Okay, so there's this type of plant called fire spikes that is really dumb. It's a terrible arch enemy for the ginger flowers and the laconia because they compete for the resources. Their roots grow about the size of a blue whale. No, just kidding, about the size of a great white shark. They grow underneath. They attach to the roots of heliconias and ginger plants. I hope they like ginger roots. And then they start sucking the nutrients out of it, which, you know what happens? Kills the heliconias and the gingers, which is terrible because how are we supposed to get our tea then? Yes, we have that type of ginger. Woo. That is just one example of an invasive species here, but that is a plant, not an animal. Some animals are even dire. For example, the West Indian mongoose that lives here. It's invasive. It's probably like the only large domesticated mammal in Yunque. And something about it that's really dangerous, it's really harassing the visitors. You see, they have a common disease, most of them have disease, called rabies. I wonder what that is. That can affect a person and cause them to go psycho. And also, mongoose likes to bite people, so that seems to be a bit not happy-ish. But there's something else that you must know about when it comes to invasives and native species. Native and invasive species, you can't really tell the difference until you actually look at it. Because you see, when you look closer into it, you'll see that many invasive species, they're super abundant. Like, say the plant over there. They're abundant, they're everywhere. In fact, right behind you, I can see some of it. It's just everywhere. If you look down to El Yunque, you will see most of the trees there are it. And guess what? It's invasive. Whoa! Amazing! Crazy! Right? And seriously, they can really blend in. You see, invasive species doesn't exactly mean it needs to be not that common. The rock pigeon's not common here, but I don't care, it's still invasive. But these plants, which are everywhere, is probably the most common plant you will see here. They're all invasive. I'm sorry about that. It's just invasive species like to blend in. So, in your front yard, you have many invasive species and many native species too. In your local forest or park, there are also going to be lots of invasive and native species. You should go onto your phone and look up what is invasive in the area, and I'm sure that you're going to learn a lot. Now, there's many things that people are trying to do, like destroy all the invasive animals, like the kill all the coquis in the world thing, and the kill all the elconias because they are also invasive in other places. But you see, we can't kill them. They're still part of nature. They are hurting the ecosystem, but why? Mainly because of us. Yes, humans are mainly responsible for the transfiguration of invasive and native to invasive and endemic to invasive species on Earth. I mean, the Argentine ant was introduced to the Americas and started causing devastation because we sent it there in the 1930s. The coquis was sent there by humans. Everything here, all the invasive animals and plants and anything that's invasive in the world came from humans. Even disease. Yes. And all of this, we need to make sure that we take a closer look at what we are doing. The more that we look closer, the more things that we will find. For example, if we look closely and we realize that there's a coquis frog in this, we can just place it on the dock and let it hop away to safety instead of bringing it to Florida and doing all the business it could do. Sadly, we didn't learn that yet because, coquis are invasive species in Florida and Hawaii, so they're still invasive, but still endemic. And something else that you need to consider is that you are probably responsible for the transferation of invasive species. Now, you might have shipped your packages, like maybe you had lifted up your package with a tiny little fire ant and walked and moved down to South Dakota, placed it on the ground and opened it, and boom. The entire state's ecosystem is now destroyed. So be careful what you do. Even if you're just lifting up your wallet and taking out a dollar bill, you might be transferring a terrible thing that can destroy the ecosystem for many millennia, centuries, thousands of millions of millennia and centuries later. It will still be here and disrupting the ecosystems. So be extra careful what you are doing. In El Yunque, we have a big problem called we are still planting a lot of these things. And during the secondary forest reconstruction, one thing that you could easily see was the fire spikes. And a lot of people were like, native. Until they realized that they come from somewhere else. And it is sucking on the ecosystem metaphorically and literally. And they are causing such damage to El Yunque that we still had to stop planting them and cutting them down. It's great to stop the invasive species, but you see, we don't need to do that by killing things. We can just pick it up and place it back to the plate where it comes from. But of course, this has not always been successful. For example, the Russian thistle, most commonly known as tumbleweed. It is invasive. There's a reason why it's called the Russian thistle. It comes from Russia. We tried to get rid of it. Let's see how that progress has gone on. Yes, it has failed significantly. But here's a lesson. All these invasive species may seem like a threat, but the more you see them as a threat, the more they become a threat. The more you try to kill them, now you're changing the ecosystem for the ecosystem to start adapting the other way around. So you should try to not let these invasive species spread to other places and make more trouble, but still, don't kill them. They are still part of an ecosystem. And plus, we can't change anything about it now. We've done it. Best appreciate it, and appreciate that it is, no matter where it came from, part of Mother Nature.